The following segment comes from a full SEC preview episode from Running Out the Clock. If you like what you hear in this segment, then be sure and subscribe to the channel so that you can catch all of our SEC previews, including whether or not we think the teams discussed in these previews will do better, worse, or the same this season. Let's flip over to the East and to the most entertaining storyline imaginable in this off season. The Tennessee goes after every coach on the planet, it seems like, but ends up getting Jeremy Pruitt, which is an interesting hire for a couple of reasons. First of all, because they went after other coaches, and these other coaches they shot way high. They were like, let's ask Bill Belichick.
Let's not forget they hired another coach.
Right.
Like they hired Greg Schiano.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, maybe not.
And then the fans revolted about that. They were like, this is stupid. So all this goes on. They still end up getting an assistant coach who had a lot of, hype around him, was viewed as being the next guy, maybe the next up-and-coming assistant to become a head coach in Jeremy Pruitt. So it's an odd situation in that they went after other people, didn't pan out, or when it did, the fans got the entire athletic department fired over it. And now they got this guy, Jeremy Pruitt, defensive coordinator, defensive-minded coach, kind of striking me a little bit as like the new Will Muschamp. In that you're not maybe less psychopathic, but also not really sure if he's ready to be a head coach type thing. Chandler, Jeremy Pruitt, I know you got some opinions on this.
So let me just start this by saying I'm okay if we change the podcast. We kept the ROTC initials, but we changed it from Running Out the Clock to just ripping on Tennessee constantly.
Okay.
because it's a terrible hire.
Okay.
You can try to convince me he's this great football mind. Like he was Saban's defensive coordinator, and look at what Kirby Smart. First off, Kirby Smart had been with Kirby Smart and Nick Saban were in like a common law marriage. Like they had been together for like 8 years at that point. Pruitt's bounced around everywhere he's been. Apparently, I mean, when you listen to some of his former players or guys that have been around the programs he's been at, I'm specifically thinking of, Aaron Murray's comments. Like he's not particularly well regarded in those locker rooms. And I don't see how this guy's not just Ed Ogeron 2.0. And also, but I think it fits because, Tennessee is sitting around still thinking that they deserve to be in that same conversation as Alabama, as Auburn, as Georgia, when they don't realize that it's not 1998 anymore. And the advantages that Tennessee had as a program in 1998, I mean, they were one of the only schools in the South that was starting to recruit nationally. They're one of the only schools in the SEC that was on TV every week. They're one of the few schools in the country who had, the big, massive stadium. Well, I mean, everybody's stadium is 80,000 plus now. Everybody's recruiting all across the country now. Everybody's on TV every week. Like in Tennessee as a state does not typically produce the kind of high school football talent that you need to be able to lock down your state and that be enough to win. So I don't see it. I don't see it really happening with Tennessee. I don't see it happening with Jeremy Pruitt. I think the guy's going to flame out. I think there's already I think we talked about it earlier today. There's the story of Brant Lawless, the 4-star defensive tackle that they just like he made his grades, he was eligible, he was everything, and they just kind of at the last minute said, hey, you're not coming. And so I just don't think I don't think that that's a recipe for success, especially when you're still operating as if it's 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, there's the weird situation, obviously with this recruit that they just jettisoned off, but also with you mentioned a second ago Aaron Murray, making public comments about how he didn't think Jeremy Pruitt was the guy. Of course, Pruitt joined the Alabama staff in 2007 as a director of player development, and then was a DB coach after that. Went to Florida State for one season where, I mean, he apparently had a pretty decent program for a squad to work with there, because that's when Florida State won the national championship. And his defense in that one season he was there was good. Doesn't necessarily mean how, so much of that was entirely on him. And so much, it could have just been, they had a good defense to begin with. Goes to Georgia for a few years there. Actually ends up getting them into a top 25 total defense. But then there's these comments that come out of former Georgia players, especially Aaron Murray, who say he's not really the guy to take your program somewhere. Keith, when you hear a former player come out like that, and there's been some, people associated with Tennessee that are trying to convince the fans, no, we sign off on him. It's great. The respected Tennessee legends. But when you have a former player come out and make comments like that, what do you think that does to the fan base, the players even involved? What do you think that does to a program when you have a guy come out and say, no, the coach you hired isn't the guy you should have gotten?
Yeah, it's you can slander his ability as a coach, his X's and O's, et cetera, but as long as a coach is a good locker room guy and a good, quote unquote players coach, you can kind of justify things however you want. But when former players come out and say, yeah, he's really rough in the locker room, guys have a really hard time like believing in him and what he's saying, that kind of lets the air out of every single tire in Knoxville,
It burns every couch in Knoxville.
Yeah, all the mattresses are on fire. And let's be honest, like their first game is against West Virginia. Then they got a couple of games against like Cheeseburger State. And then they got Florida, Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, and South Carolina.
Their schedule is brutal.
It is horrible. And so you're going into the season looking for any reason to be optimistic. Mm-hmm. And then a former player says, nope, he's not the guy. And then you're like, well, let's just see what happens. And you look at the schedule and it's like, it's
right.
How are those basketballs looking right now?
God. Ro, we've talked a lot about the coach, obviously, at this point. We need to talk about the team itself because this is a preview episode, I guess. But we got this squad. Pruitt's bringing in he's switching to a 3-4 defense. It seems to be in a lot of ways kind of similar to an Arkansas situation on offense in terms of, trying to figure out who it is that's going to be the quarterback. And what type of offense. The word on the street is that they're looking to try to rely on defense, because he is a defense first coach, and just play a low risk offense, knowing that they went winless in the conference last year, uncertain of a lot of returning talent here. Does that even seem like the type of, I don't know, formula to rebuild a program with?
Well, if we're talking about being different in Arkansas here, Joseph, we're going to be talking about getting real terrible in the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I actually do feel really sorry for my University of Tennessee friends who are fans of them or whatever. Like,
you have those?
I have a couple.
Look at you go, man.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal about the University of Tennessee in Knoxville Orange fans. They're really not good. They're just, I don't know how to say it. They're so delusional. It's unreal. Like, all right, so keys for Tennessee's offense next year. Here, this is a typical Tennessee person's reaction. It's like, well, I just got to score somehow. That's pretty much all they have to do. Well, it's not like Tennessee doesn't have talent. They have, I think in the last 4 years, I looked it up or whatever, like they actually have like top 15 recruiting class the last 4 years or so.
Yeah, Butch Jones brought in some highly rated recruiting classes and didn't really do anything with them.
He didn't do anything with them. And here's the deal. This is
They've all
what I
left
mean.
the-
Like,
they've all
I don't
left
know.
the
He did
program.
have like a 9-win season just like 2 years ago.
They've all
Yeah.
left the program though.
yeah, a lot of
Yep.
them have left. But see, here's the mentality of Tennessee. It's like, well, what would Philip Fulmer do? Well, let's get Philip Fulmer 2.0, a guy who does not. This guy is not going to do anything on offense. Jeremy Pruitt, if his quarterbacks or whatever that Aaron Murray is telling that nobody respects the student locker room, this should be a huge red flag. And his response to that was also ridiculous as well. His response to Aaron Murray's comments was, 15 years ago, I was a kindergarten teacher, and now I'm the head coach at Tennessee. You probably don't make that ascension without knowing how to treat people. That's your head football coach.
That reminds me of in Zombieland when Woody Harrelson wins an argument by just going, do you want to see how hard I can punch? Like
Exactly. That's a great comparison. They like simply getting a touchdown and for next year will be an incredible experience for the University of Tennessee. They have not had a touch. They finished dead last in the SEC in scoring and like 150th or something like that national total offense. Like they're bad.
Yeah.
And the defense will be pretty good. They got a lot of talent on defense, but the offense only managed like over 20 points once the entire season last year, and that's not going to change. That's not going to change at all if this guy is the hire. So let the couches burn. We might see a mid-season fire, first time ever, but don't put it past the University of Tennessee fans to riot over something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the last episode that Keith and I recorded together, I said that this is one of those things that just because of the nature of the program and the fact that they changed out everyone involved, the fans rioted, got the AD out of town. They brought in Philip Fulmer again. Just the fact that all that happened means that this is a situation in which if you even want to have the slightest chance of developing a consistent program at all, you've got to give one coach like 5 years, just to do anything with it.
And to me, that's the big difference in every other stop. Florida State, Georgia, Alabama, those are established programs that they're well-run organizations. Like Florida State may miss a beat, like it may slow down a little bit with the coaching change, but like you feel like they're going to end up back on their feet because they're a sane university. Georgia made the switch from Mark Richt to Kirby Smart seamlessly. You got to think that Alabama. Nick Saban has a Lazarus pit in his backyard, so they're going to stay well run. Like that's not Tennessee. Like that's not Tennessee at all.
Not at all.
Let's not act like Nick Saban has some sort of magical pit and that he's not just consuming the souls of Bama fans.
That's true.
That's possible. Yeah,
it's part of his contract.
There are a remarkable amount of people that I've met in Tuscaloosa that have just disappeared.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, the fans gladly go ahead and just turn themselves in. It's part of it's some of the boosters donate money, and then some of them donate their firstborn children to keep Nick Saban alive and young and everything. Whew, man. The general consensus here seems to be that the last place teams are in last place for a reason right now, and that this is not a fluke thing. Thanks again for listening to this specific individual team preview. If you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to Running Out the Clock so you don't miss any more of our SEC previews leading up to this season. You can find the full episode that this comes from by searching for our 2018 SEC Preview full episodes. And you'll want to listen to that because we give a verdict at the end of whether or not we feel like the team mentioned will do better, worse, or stay the same. For Running Out the Clock, I'm your friend Joseph Craven. Thanks for listening.